Welcome, it's Gail here. This video will show you how to create the pig in the drawing on the left, and we're going to use it as clip art so that way you can add it to other drawings in the future, and you can also move things around. You can change the drop shadows, which are the shadows on it, and you can also change the colors and do so many more things with it in the future. I'm already in Google Drive. The first thing I want to do, if you haven't done so already, is I want to create a folder for animals to make it easier to find my drawing in a little bit. So I'm going to the plus new sign over here, clicking on that and choosing the first one, folder, and I'm going to type in animals. And if you have a lot, you can always make subfolders inside this folder. I'm going to click create. So we have that here. I'm also going to change the color by pressing down with 2 fingers on my launch pad or on my mouse. And then I'm going to change color and I'm going to choose brown. Now I'm going back to the plus new sign just like we did when we created a new folder. And we're going all the way down to the bottom to more to find Google Drawings. Google Drawings shows up over here, so I'm going to click on that. And I'm in Google Drawings. Click on Untitled Drawing at the top and you're going to label this as you wish. I'm going to put pig backside. And now I'm going to move this to the folder by going to File and selecting Move right here. And when I click on that, my folders come up here. I'm selecting animals and I'm going to select move, and it lets me know that it's been moved to that folder. While we're in here, I want to explain this background real quick. This is your canvas, the checkerboard background. This is transparent. So if you create an animal in here and you just save it as a checkerboard background, you will be able to move it anywhere you want, and this checkerboard will not be a part of it unless you're taking a screenshot of it. Then the checkerboard pattern will remain. To make this a little easier though, and to find out the colors that you feel most comfortable with, sometimes it's nice to have a color in the background. So I'll show you how to add a color to the background similar to what I have in the picture over here, and also how to get rid of it at the end, and I'll also show you that at the beginning here too. I'm pressing with 2 fingers on my launch pad or my mouse in the center of the canvas, and then I'm choosing the background over here. I'm going to gradient, and then I'm going down to custom, and I'm going to add about 6 or 7 circles in the center here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There we go. And I'm just going to kind of spread these out. I'm not looking for them to be even. I'm just showing you how I created the background over here, or at least a sample of what it could look like. I'm just going to maybe I'll bring some extra ones over here, maybe keep it a little softer where the sky might be. Let's see, I'll kind of see how this works. So on the right, this is going to be the bottom part. I'm going to click on this one. Then I'm clicking on the upside down triangle, which is called the toggle, next to the select gradient stop color. And I'm going to choose this light orange to make it kind of look like a sand color. Then I'm going to select the next one, and I'm going to make it kind of look like maybe it's a seascape that's blurred. So I might choose like this lighter blue right here. I could even go with white or something. I'm going to select the next one and go with a little bit of a darker blue, and then maybe one right here. I'm kind of staying in the same color range, but you can have fun and play around with that. It looks like I've added something else there. And maybe do something like this and go with a darker color for the sky, but you can just have fun with this any way you want. Those are pretty similar right there, but I'm going to keep it like that for this one, for this sake. And then I'm going to change this one over here to maybe a purple if I like that, and maybe go to a blue over here, and maybe a little darker, one darker. And then over here I can make it darker or lighter, and I think I will actually go darker like so, and maybe come back to this one and make it a little, I do want to keep that one in there, so I'm going to play around with this. You can kind of play around and make some of them smaller and kind of get the color you want there. So maybe I just want a little bit of purple in there, and maybe kind of like that, and I'm going to click OK. So this is my background. You can play around with that and come up with what you like. And to get rid of that background, to make a transparent background for your pig, because this will stay, all you do is press with 2 fingers on the keyboard again, and you'll go back to background, and then this time we'll go over to solid and choose transparent, and you're back to your canvas. Again, I'm going to go back one to have this up here just so I can match up the colors of the pig with something in the background. Now to create the pig, we're going to start with some of the shapes that are farther behind so it's less work in the future. And the reason why I like to do each animal separately is if you do have to send something back and forth, it's like each one of these shapes is on a different piece of paper. And it's a lot of work going back to add them back and forth. And I did create this one all at once, and boy, was it a lot of work. So after I've created this, I found ways to make it easier for you as well. I'm coming up here to shapes to start my legs, and I'm going to choose a trapezoid shape like this one right here. I'm just going to click and pull out a shape. And now I'm going to flip it by going to arrange and going down to rotate, and I'm going to flip it vertically. And I'm going to make it a little bit smaller and kind of figure out the shape, and you can make them like really skinny and have a little sense of humor with it. I will do some animals later on that have very skinny legs, but I think I'm going to keep this one kind of like this for right now. And I'm also going to change the color of this by going to fill color and coming over to gradient, and I'm going to come down to custom. And I'm going to come up with the colors for the pig. So I'm going to change this from linear to radial over here under type. And then I'm going to select the rectangle over on the right where the color slider is right here. Then I'm going to click on the toggle next to select gradient stop color and choose a color for the pig. I'm going to custom for this, and instead of playing around with the colors up here, I'm going to select the hue color here, and the hue is the pure color that is here, and I'm going to find a pink that I kind of like, maybe like this right here. And then I'm going to move this up to the top because I want to keep the gray out. You might want to have gray in it, but I don't. And then I'm going to find like a darker pink for this side, and maybe I'll have fun with this one and see if that's not, if it's too pink, I can always come back and change it, and that's pretty good. I'm going to click on the one on the left and do the same thing by going to custom and moving the hue color over and kind of finding a pink that I like. I was closer to the red right there, maybe a little bit more closer there. And then I'm going to move it up here, and I just want like a light pink color, and I'll play around with that a little bit later on for some of the other shapes. And that looks pretty good. I'll click OK. So there's the pink for the pig. If that's too pink, you can always go back and change that, and I can show you how to do that later on too. We're going to get rid of the black outline if you desire. Otherwise, you can also change the color of the line by coming here and choosing a color that you like, and you can also change the thickness of it if you'd like to do so. I'm going to go undo. I don't want that, and I'm going to get rid of that black line by going to the border color and choosing transparent. So I have this part right here. Now I'm going to the shape tool to create the bottom part, and I'm going to choose the square or rectangle tool right here, and I'm just going to line it up on the bottom here, and hopefully that shape's about right there. Let me line it up. And I'm going to take a little time right here to make sure that this matches the way I like it. And it might be easier to change this to the color I'm actually going to have it. So I'm going to click on this again, go up to the solid tools here, and I'm in gradient already. I'm going to select the black radial gradient and maybe see if I need to make this just a little bit larger. Now, if you're having a hard time getting this to match up, it might be that you are on, it's snapping to a guide or to a ruler. I do have rulers on. But if you want to go to view, and if you're having problems moving things around, you can come down to snap to, and you can see I have grid and the guides are on. I'm just going to click on this to remove that, and then I have more leeway as to how I move that to make it look the way I want. Now I realize this is a little bit on the pink side right here. I'm going to click on this and change it right now by, I already have it selected. I'm going here. I'm going to click on this one and click on the toggle up here and go to custom and just make this a little less pink. Maybe just come over a little bit like that, and that's working out a little bit better. Of course, you can do more if you want. I'm going to group these together by holding down the shift key. I'm able to group more than one thing, so I'm holding down the shift key, selecting the top part of the leg and the foot, and now I'm going to arrange and I'm going to group them. And I'm going to bring it down and kind of match it up on the bottom right here, so that way I can make sure my legs match up pretty well here. I'm going to select it again, hit Control+D on most computers. If you're using an Apple device, it's Command+D to duplicate. And then I'm going to kind of figure out the spacing of my legs. And maybe I want it to be a little bit more squatty and farther apart, or I want them closer together, whatever you desire. And now I'm going to select both of these by holding down the Shift key to select both of them together and going to arrange and grouping this. And now I'm going to move this up a little bit, and I'm going to duplicate one more time while they're grouped for the legs that are closer to us. So that's Command+D or Control+D. Unfortunately, I only selected one, so I'm going to delete that one. See if these are okay. Now they're grouped together. I'm going to hit Control+D or Command+D, and now I have my legs like so. If I want to, I could make this leg come to the ones behind. If you want to make it look more like it's in perspective or something, I just made it a little bit smaller, so you see a little bit of this one and more of this one back here, just to add a little bit more variety. And you will always be able to move these pieces around and change the colors for any future drawings, even though you're creating this as a clip art piece. And that's the beauty of using clip art, instead of creating a full drawing and have to recreate things all the time. I'm going to hold down the Shift key. Actually, I'm going to keep it like that. That looks pretty good. If I want, I can take the one at the top here and just kind of move it down a little bit to get the spacing that I like. And now we're ready to create the body. I'm going to create the head first and then the body in front, since the head is farther behind. I'm going to the shape tools. I'm going to select the circle tool right here, pull out a shape. If you want it to be completely circular, hold down the Shift key when doing that. That didn't matter to me, so I did not do that. And I'm going to get rid of the outline here by choosing transparent and going to the fill color and coming over to gradient and choosing one of my colors down here. I might choose this one over here to make it a little bit darker and send it to the back like so. Now I'm going to select this and hit Command+D or Control+D to duplicate, and I'm going to make it larger for the body. And you can have a lot of fun with this, coming up with the shape that you like. And I kind of like that shape. I'm going to keep it. I mean, you can really exaggerate this and make yours any way you like. I'm going to keep the head up maybe to about right there. That looks pretty good. And now I'm going to align it. I'm waiting for the red line to kind of match up with the shape in the foreground. For some reason, maybe it's because that one's behind, I want to center this one. For some reason, that red line in the center is not popping up. And I'm not going to worry about that. That's interesting. Normally it does. If there's a red line that pops in the middle and you want to center it, you can. But we can also play around by tipping this later on and stuff too. But I want to keep it horizontal right now so I can make sure my ears are fairly horizontal there too. I have that, and I'm just going to move this over a little bit. I do want it to kind of center with my legs. And I think it's because I have the shapes underneath it that are kind of throwing that off. Maybe that's why that isn't showing up right now. So I'm going to keep it like that. The next part is to create the ears. So we are going to the line tool right here. We're going to click on the upside down triangle, which is the toggle, and going down to the polyline tool. I'm going to make my ear large over to the side here so I can see it better, and it's easier to move around and it's easier to use this tool. I'm clicking once, and now I can move this line anywhere I want, and I'm going to let it know where I want it to go by clicking where the next line is going to be. So I'm going to click it right here. I'm going to click it out here, and I'm going to kind of create the shape of my ear like so. And now I'm going to bring it back so it groups together and it fills in. If it does not fill in like this, it means that it had not connected and it can't create that shape, or overcorrected. And all you have to do is come up here and undo and start again. I'm going to undo I'm going to redo to go back to get my ear back. And if I'm not happy with the shape, I can click escape to get out of this tool. This little crosshair lets me know I'm still in the polyline tool. So I can go to select here, or I can click escape on the keyboard. Now, once I have this selected, I can double click in the center if I want to move those lines around. If I'm not quite happy with the way those lines look, I'm going to keep it like this for now. And, you know, I'm fine with it as it is. Once I have this, I'm going to duplicate it. Oh, actually, I'm not going to duplicate it yet because then we would have to create more steps. So I already have this selected, and I'm going to get rid of that black outline to make it transparent. Then I'm going to the fill color, going over to gradient and choosing the color that I want for the ears. And I think I want my ears to stand out more, so I'm going to choose the lighter one of the two. And then now I have this selected, I'm going to duplicate it, either Command plus D or Control plus D to duplicate. And now I'm just going to move this down a little bit and flip it by going to Arrange, Rotate, and flip it horizontally. And then I'm going to start to move the ears around and kind of place them on the head. Now, of course, this is way too big. I'm going, and if I wanted to before I duplicated it, here's another step. I should have resized this first, so that way they stay the same unless you want to have fun and make yours a little bit less symmetrical. That's if you look at Tim Burton's artwork and stuff, a lot of his things are asymmetrical because it adds to it. It adds to a little bit of the overall design, and sometimes it can be a little bit creepy, or sometimes it just makes it a little bit more interesting to look at depending on what you do with it. So I think I'm going to keep this here too. I double clicked in the center so I can move it over to kind of follow the circle line, even though I'm keeping it as a straight line. I'm going to select this again, and I'm going to duplicate it, Control plus D or Command plus D. Now I'm going to bring it over and I'm going to flip it by going to Arrange, Rotate, and flip it horizontally. And then I can move this over and kind of figure out where I want it to go. If I want to use guidelines to make sure it's completely symmetrical, another thing you can do is go to View, and you can go down to Guides right here and click Show Guides, and you can move this guide up to make sure that they match up. So I can bring this one down like so. And that's another way I can go about this. These lines will not show up if you're going to add it to a Google Docs or to a Google Slides, or to you're going to save it and you're going to add it to another picture later on. However, I don't like to have them on there right now, so I'm taking that off. And now we got quite a bit of our shapes there for our animal. And I'm thinking I want to hold down the Shift key, grab the ears, the head, and the body, and I'm just going to move it over a little bit to the right there to kind of make that look a little bit more centered, and that looks better. Now it's time to create the tail. Now you can use the polyline tool. I recommend going down to the curve tool. It's a little tricky and it might take several times to get this. I am going to start with the inside oval part right here, and I'm going to create the outside of the shape and come back in. And this is similar to the way that you use the polyline tool. You want to click where you want it to curve, and I'll let you know where I'm clicking as I'm creating this. So I'm going to start with the end part here that might be attached to the body. So I'm clicking 1, coming out a little bit, a 2 and 3, and now I'm going to start to create the inside outside shape of the tail. And the slower I go, the better I'm able to control where I want my lines to be, and I can try to keep it from being so straight in places. So I don't know how long it's going to take of this, but I'll keep going. And coming around like so over here. And then I'm going to go on the inside. You might need a couple more lines or less lines depending on what kind of tail you're creating. You do not have to create your tail like mine, of course. You create yours the way you want. And if you wanted something even more simple, you can use a line tool. There's also a scribble tool under the line tool too at the bottom. And I'm going to connect that together. And that's my overall shape. I'm going to get rid of the border color by choosing transparent, and I'm still in the curve tool, so I'm going to either hit escape on the keyboard or choose my selection tool. So now it's selected and I'm out of that tool. I can double click in the center, and if I want to move these around, I can. I do want it a little thicker here, so I'm going to see if I can move this around and start to make it a little bit thinner over there, and might have to move these around a little bit, maybe move this in a little bit, and maybe move this one in. And you can kind of play around with this. I might want to move this one over and see if I can kind of get this curve a little bit better there too. And I'm going to keep this like this for this video, but you can play around with that and really perfect it all that you want. I'm going to click outside it so I can kind of see the overall shape. That's pretty good. It's going to be a lot smaller anyway. I'm going to just pull on the side here if you want to keep that shape and you're super happy with it, but you have more choices by making it, you can extend it up, or you can play around with it this way too, and that's kind of a fun thing to do with your drawing as well. And I'm going to bring it over to the animal and kind of see how big I want this to be, and maybe I'll keep the shape about right here. And since I'm not getting that centered line tool, I could always bring in a guideline if I want, but I'm going to keep it like that. And I'm going back to the fill color and coming over to gradient, and I'm going to choose one of these down here. I'll choose the one in the center, and then I also want to get rid of that line by coming over here and making sure it's transparent. And the next thing I want to do is click on the body itself, and I'm going to make that a little bit lighter by clicking on this one over here and then going to custom, and I'm going to choose this one over on the right and click on the toggle and even go as far as white and see if that's too much and kind of add that, and that's kind of fun. Now this is too dark, and of course you have to adjust things as you go along, and I might just click on this one over here and see what happens. And that's kind of cute. It's a little bit, the points are kind of showing up here. Even when it's this small, I can still kind of bring this in a little bit. It's just going to be a little bit more tricky. I'm just going to see if I could do just a tad bit, and I don't know if I'll be able to, but we'll see. And I think I'll just keep it like that. Now the cool thing about creating one animal at a time is you can select everything, and it's so much quicker than creating all of your animals at once. To do so, just hold down the Command or Control key. So it's Command on Apple, all other devices is Control, and then find the A, locate the A on the keyboard, hold them down at the same time. You've selected everything that's here except for the background. And then we're going to arrange, and we are going to group it together. So we have it like this. I'm going to move it up here in a little bit, and we see the colors against the background. If I want to change the colors to everything, of course I can still come in here and come to gradient, and I'm just going to do this to show you. So I can make it all gray and then go back and change the things I want. If I don't like that, I just undo, and I have my shapes back the way I have them. And even though this is selected, I can still select each one individually and add other things. And I'll show you something with that again in just a minute. I am going to grab a hold of my canvas where those diagonal black lines are down here, and I'm going to shorten it a little bit because this is clip art. It's not meant to be anything else. And the more I shorten my canvas right here and make this smaller, the more I'm going to be able to control it in the future. Before I do anything else though, just so you can kind of see what it looks like against the background, I am going to add go to Format Options and add a drop shadow. So I'm clicking on all of this. It's already grouped. I see Format Option up here. If my window is too small, like so, that will disappear. You might get these horizontal dots. They might be vertical. When you click on More, you will be able to see Format Options there. And so I'm just going to click on this, and I'm going to bring this out larger. And then I'm going to choose Drop Shadow. I'm going to keep it on black. You already have a shadow right here because this is selected up here. And I'm just going to bring out the distance a little bit, and I'm going to soften it by blurring that line a little bit. And you can have fun with this and do as much as you like or as little as you like, and you can always come back and adjust this for each drawing you add this clip art to. And I'm just going to click off of there so you can kind of see what that looks like. Now these ears are a little too dark right there, and it's a little dark overall, so I'm just going to select it one more time, and I'm going to play around with the transparency and just make it a little bit lighter by bringing that over here. And another thing I can do is come up to my ears, and I'm going to hold down the shift key to select both of them inside here, and I am going to change the distance a little bit by bringing this inward so it doesn't stand out as much. So you have a lot of leeway as to how you want to play around with this. Maybe there's hardly any. And if I want to, I could also bring my ear, you know, I can still play around with the line tools. I can bring the ear out a little bit more to the side and kind of get that the way I like it. And if I need to, I have guides still on and they're hiding underneath the ruler. I'm just going to grab one from underneath the ruler and bring it down to see if that matches up pretty well. And that's not too bad. I'll keep it like that. And I'm going to keep this as my clip art piece. Now I'm going to press down with 2 fingers on my mouse or my launch pad to bring up the background. I'm going to change this back to solid and choose transparent. Now I have my clip art and it's already saved and it's ready to go. I hope you enjoyed this video. Until next time, I wish you the best. Bye-bye.